Hey, this is Yang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Emmy Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. I'm super excited for you to hear Elizabeth Hernandez's stories today. She has an incredible story about how she built her wealth through real estate, about her tax firm, and about her being an amazing accountant for real estate investors. So with that, Elizabeth, take it away. Share with us your journey and just how you become a real estate accountant.
So originally from Chicago, but I grew up in El Salvador. I moved back to Chicago when I was 13. I actually majored in finance. It's funny because I wanted to major in accounting. Someone talked me out of it. They're like, no, you're going to sit behind a desk all day. So I majored in finance and somehow found my way back around to accounting because I realized that's actually what I enjoyed doing. I enjoy sitting behind the computer. So I actually decided to get my CPA license after I met Bree. She's also the one that got me into real estate investing. She was telling me her story and I saw her grow from having 2 properties to however many she has now, because that number just keeps going up. Mm-hmm. And so when she would talk to me about real estate, I was very curious. And then I said, I think I want to do taxes just because I saw or we hear all the tax benefits as, related to real estate. So I decided to get my CPA license, which I got back in 2021. And then I worked for a firm that just works with real estate investors. So I just enjoy, my 2 passions, taxes and real estate. I was able to find that ground. And then so now I started my own practice and I do help small business owners and real estate investors that are getting started, or if people reach out to me and they just want to know how to get started, I'm always open to setting up a call to meet with them.
I love that. Tell us a bit more, because that's a very interesting story. You were born in Chicago. And then you move and grew up in El Salvador. Tell us about the adjustment back and forth. How was that like?
I think it's harder adjusting back to the US, even though I've been here since I was 13. I actually just went to El Salvador last week. It always feels like home just because the environment is different. Yeah. It's a more slower pace. I don't live in the city, but even then we're in the outskirts of the town and my dad has a nursery. So I'm used to having plants and space, So adjusting back to living in the US, it's hard for me. Even, when I came back last week, I was like, oh, I need to move back to El Salvador.
Where are you based now? Are you back in Chicago or where are you based?
So I actually live in California in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that very fast pace.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. So when you moved back, you said you were about 13. Was that harder to adjust and everything?
Yes. And honestly, I'm very thankful that I, even born in the US, but I got a chance to grow up somewhere else. I love that because my views are different from other people that grew up here. It's I enjoy a very simple life. And I think for building wealth, that has helped me a lot because I'm so used to just the necessity. Here living in the US, you're so used to let's go out every weekend, let's go to the movies, let's do all of this stuff. And back in El Salvador, it wasn't like that. I think I went to the movies once or twice the whole time that I lived there. And so I think that has helped me with keeping my budget, and sticking to a plan.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's certainly the formula for building wealth. You want to live below your means so that you can actually have an active income that actually help you be able to save, and that will help you propel to build your passive income from there. Mm-hmm. I also love that you share, as you do help tax with other people, you can see how real estate really help people build wealth. And I'm sure as an accountant, you know how beneficial real estate can be through this tax benefits. Tell me a little bit about you becoming a mom at 17 and how that may have shaped your journey to now.
Yeah, so I became a mom. I was 2 months shy of my 18th birthday. I actually hadn't even graduated high school yet. As a teen mom, you always kind of hear like, oh, like you ruined your life. Like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do anything with my life. That's it. My life is over, you know? Obviously, I'm not saying that it's okay to be a teen mom, but at least for me, I think it helped me mature. And I feel like I've always been good with budgeting because ever since I got my first job, I would always like write my hours down. Like I knew exactly how much my check was going to be every 2 weeks and I planned accordingly.
Okay.
But having my son and then going to college, I had to work full time. I was going to school full time and I had to be a mom full time. So it's like, how do I keep track or make sure that I have enough money to provide for my son, but also save for college and still, take out my son or enjoy some free time with him. Yeah.
I think a lot of immigrants could relate to this. I know even for me as an international student, obviously you have a full-time, all the coursework, but often a lot of international students also have a job to help pay for the tuition, all that stuff. And then for you specifically to have that with being a mom, like that would have been so demanding. And I love that you share how you've always been good with money, which is great. But I can only imagine how challenging, even just like time wise and energy wise, it must have been. So, really admiring you for a lot of that effort and the ability to keep going and know that you wanted more for both your kids and you. I think you said that you start investing maybe a little bit first before you becoming a CPA.
So I became a CPA first because I got my license back in 2021.
Okay.
And it was already hard as it is to get my license because at the time it was COVID. We're a blended family. So my husband has 3 daughters from his previous marriage. I had my son and then my nephew moved in with us. So I have 5 kids at home. And so they're not homeschool, but they're going to school remotely. So I had to make sure that they were logged in. I had to like cook. I had to study. I had to work. I know they say like the CPA exams are one of the hardest exams. And I do feel like just because I've always been so busy and in my head, there was no other option, like I have to do this for me. I have to do this for my family. And so just being able to like pass the exams, so first time all of them, because not a lot of people do, it means a lot to me, especially because I know everything that was going on every day leading to taking the exam. So
wow. I want to say you've always been equipped to do the hard things and not shy away from it. I love what you share about not having another option. I think that really helped with the mindset of like, this is my only path and the only way out is go through. Because I know for a lot of people, as they go through challenging things, instead of focusing on, okay, let me see how I can get through this, it become a negotiation of like, okay, is there anything else that I could consider getting out of it? So I love that mindset that you share about this is non-negotiable. I just got to do this for my family and myself. And I'm sure that helps a lot with the motivation. And congrats on passing it on the first try. That's amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
So tell us more about that first investment, because that journey is always a little bit scary, right? This is something maybe a little bit out of the wheelhouse. Tell us a little bit more about how you got that first investment, kind of that process.
Okay, so I told you I met Bree. So I met her back in 2017. She's the one that introduced me to real estate investing. She's the one that actually talked to the whole process, and I started like reading more on it. But I didn't buy my first rental until 2022. And so I first became a private lender with Bree because I felt like this is a way to get into real estate investing somehow, and because she was one of my close friends, then she would also tell me the whole process, like, oh, this is what we're doing, why, like with your money.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a way of me like learning. I didn't mention this, but back in 2019, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I had to go through cancer treatment, chemo, and then radiotherapy. Like you mentioned, I am someone that kind of like sets a goal and I'll work to get to that goal without like excuses. But something changed after going through that. And so once I completed my cancer treatment, it was mid 2021. And maybe it's the fact that you've like realized that life is short, Plus it also like made me think, okay, what happens? Like I was I guess lucky that it was stage 1. But what happens if it comes back, or if it would have been more aggressive? Like, what am I doing for my family? Like, what do I leave behind for them? I think we always go through that fear, like your first property, like you get that analysis paralysis and you're not ready. And then I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to buy the property. And so that's what I did. Like, the numbers weren't the best, but in my head, it's like, I have to do it now, or I'm always going to make up an excuse for it. So then I ended up buying my first property, which was a single family home back in the Chicagoland area. It's been doing great. Like, I did some renovations, and then after like a few months, once I started renting, I've had the same tenants ever since.
Nice. You brought up so many good points I want to emphasize. The first one is you never know when life is going to change. I was working with a lawyer who was helping us drafting paperwork for our syndication, and he was MIA for a couple of days. And then he came back saying like, hey, I just got hospitalized over the weekend, found out I had cancer, and now had to go through all the treatment. So like, you never know when your life is going to change 180. So I think it's very crucial. Even if you have a high paying W-2, it's never guaranteed. And so the need to build passive income, to build wealth outside of your job is now more important than ever. The second point that you shared that I thought is so helpful is that what is this podcast is here for, right? You got into risk investing because one of your closest friends, Bray, which is also my partner, is investing in real estate. The point of this podcast is that I really want to normalize people just like you or me investing in real estate, owning assets, building wealth. And I think as you can see how possible it is for just people like you and me to build wealth, to own asset, the more I hope you can believe that you can do it too. The third point is this analysis paralysis, right? Is always going to feel scary, but everything always feels scary, right? When it's the first time. So I love what you started first, which is private lending, which is a very easy way, right? What that just means is you partner with an experienced investor. You become the capital partner. So you lend them the money, and they essentially use your money to then invest in real estate, do fix and flip. All the risk is essentially on the active partner, while your money is earning an interest that is much higher than what you would earn while sitting in the bank. So I love that you start out that way, right? Kind of familiarize yourself with it. When you do that, the next piece is know your first deal does not need to be a slam dunk. Like, that was the most important thing that anyone can do. So if you're starting out building wealth, buying assets, you're going to pay the money either way, whether it's through education or through experience. So you can expect your first deal may not be a slam dunk, but I'm pretty sure over time, you're going to be so glad that you did it. So find people, right? Find people who are doing it. You can ask questions. You can follow along to take that next step. I think that's super important. So Elizabeth, you bought your first rental in Chicago. It's not renting. It's great. Tell us more about what are some of that next investments look like, and what did you do to continue to grow and scale in this space?
I got my first property back in 2022. And so kind of set a goal in my head that I was going to try to get one property every year, or at least every 2 years. So I got my second property in October of 2023, which is a midterm rental, and it's been doing great. I really love midterm rentals, just because I know the benefits of Airbnb, especially if you're self-managing, the tax savings. Because I know the tax benefits, and then my husband qualifies for real estate professional status, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'll self-manage. And then I quickly realized not how hard it is, but at least it's so time consuming, especially if you're in the midterm rental or short-term rental space. I quickly realized that I'm more of a passive investor. For my midterm rentals, I always have a co-host, just because my job as a CPA is so demanding, especially during busy time. Like, I had no time to be following up. So I got my second property October of 2023, and then I got my third property this year, February 2025. Yeah.
Congrats! Oh my God, that's good now. Oh my God, I love it.
Yes.
Okay. So is the third one also a midterm rental format?
Yeah, we're furnishing it right now. Okay. But even then I was like, what was I thinking? Like, it's right in the middle of busy season. Like, why did I do this to myself? It was a very crazy week leading to the closing and then setting everything up to like hire someone to do the decor, like the setup and staging and stuff. Yeah.
So you hear Elizabeth, right? Her expertise is in tax. That's when she spent so many years learning, taking exam, and doing that, right? That's her expertise. That can be very time demanding. However, that doesn't mean that you can't build wealth outside of your W-2. It's probably a little bit less about the return on investment, but the return on your energy and your time. So you can still build wealth, you can still own the asset and take advantage of the tax benefit, the appreciation, the cash flow, while still have your time doing something else that you love and that your expertise lies in. So whether you have a busy W-2 or you're just like, hey, I really just want to value my time, understand that you can have team member in place, just like what Elizabeth did with having a co-host, or consider investing passively or doing both, right? I love what you're doing with having your active investment, having a co-host in place, but still private lending as a different way to diversify your investment. I also want to chat a little bit about you starting your own firm. Tell us more about that decision and any advice you may have for people out there who may already in a professional role and then consider starting their own firm.
I think it happens to a lot of like tax firms, not necessarily just CPA firms, but anyone that does taxes. You end up getting so many clients and, you're just working on completing the return that you don't end up building a relationship with your clients. And that's something very important to me. When I was studying finance, I took a commercial banking class. And that's when I was like deciding, okay, this is what I want to do. Because I met the bankers. They said that it was all about building relationships with their clients. So they would go out to eat or take them out to a Cubs game, or whatever. And I realized that that's very important to me. Like, I don't want to just meet a client like once a year, like give me all your paperwork and then I don't hear from them all year.
Yeah.
And so that's where that decision came, because I realized if I work for a firm, they get to choose what client they work with, whether it's someone that I like or not, whether they're my ideal client or not. I don't get a say, I have to just do the work. And so with me having my clients, it's like, if I decide if they're my ideal client, then I work with them. If I decide like, hey, I don't think it's fair to charge them extra for an email, like I get to say if that works for me or not. So that's when I decided that, I do want to teach clients. Like, I do want to take the time. Like, if they have questions, if they don't understand their tax return, like, I'm willing to meet with you and like go over it. I want my clients to learn and understand why their tax return looks the way that it does, or why the results are what they are, I
love that. And I think that's really important for sure. I recently became a commercial mortgage broker. So to your point, I really love not just the numbers side of things, but also the relationship, right? Because I think you probably see this in tax accounting as well. From my experience, from the lending perspective, the question of like, is this a good loan depends a lot on what the investor's goals are. So almost any deals can be a good deal if you have a good loan in place. So I'm sure similarly for your tax, there's a lot of different tax strategies and the good fit or not, or like why is this a more beneficial way to file it, would depends on the client's goal and situation, what they're planning on to do, which sometimes is hard to get if you don't have that relationship. So I love that you decide to do your own firm and then be able to decide on how you want to charge the clients, to have more of that relationship base. That's very important, especially in real estate. I think a lot of these are relationship based for sure. What were some of the challenges that you might have come across or maybe overcame as you started your own firm?
I think for me, like, for sure, it was probably just working for one firm. Like, maybe I wish I would have worked for different firms and kind of see how other firms work or the processes that they have in place. Because I worked for this one firm, it's like, is this the way that I should do it? Should I follow the same format? But then I quickly realized it doesn't work for me because it's not the way that I want to run my firm. That firm has certain packages that they offer, but those packages don't align with the values that I have. So then it's like learning to figure out that sometimes you think that you have everything ready or set in stone and that's the way that you're supposed to do it, but it's not.
I love that. If you're ever going from a position where you're physically doing a lot of the work, to then going to an owner and you are still doing the work, it's often require people to put on more hats. With the CEO hat, what will be a structure look like? How do I find more clients? How's marketing look like? How do I charge my clients? How would they pay? There's a lot of that system and process that needed to happen. And that sometimes can wear an owner down. So you can either ask for someone who may have already started the firm or even have a professional person coming in who can help you set up all the system and process so that you can do what you do best, which is advising clients on tax strategy and doing people tax. So I love that you share about that switch and these different roles that you got to learn and grow more in. So at every podcast episode, we asked a question that was left behind by previous guests. And your question is, what kind of world would you like to leave behind for the next generation?
I think it would be a world where everyone is kind to each other and willing to help each other, because I think it's so important. I know you mentioned it earlier. You don't have to do this alone, whether it's investing or starting your own business or even like raising a family. You know, I think people are so scared to be like judged or failing or whatever. And I do feel like if we helped each other more or like give advice, then it would probably be better. And I say this because, you know, with my big family, like it does take a village to raise a family. And it's always nice to have all these people that, you know, like with Bree, I remember this specific question because she asked me, like, what are you scared of? Right before I bought my first property, she's like, what are you scared of? And I said, what if it doesn't get rented? Like, what happens? And she's like, then think about your plan B. What's your plan B? If it doesn't rent out, what are you going to do? And it's like, you're right. There are things that I would never like think about that you might conversate with someone and they like bring it up and then you're like, oh yeah, like I didn't think of that. So when I bought the second property and I decided I wanted to do midterm, I'm thinking, you know, I know this person that does cleaning, I'll just call them and everything. I had never heard of like Turno. That's one thing I like about real estate investors. Real estate investors are so friendly. Like you go to a meetup and they're willing to share all the information that they can. They're like ready to help you out. And I just wish that it was more like that in general.
I love that you share that. Yeah, I think if people are more open to asking for help and receiving help would be wonderful. To your point, a lot of real estate investors, I think we all remember what it felt like to get your first property. And so we're super generous with sharing like, hey, here's what I learned, blah, blah, blah. Don't make the same mistake I did because we all know that there's going to be a tons of other mistakes that you can make, right? So like, don't make the same mistake that we made. And I love that you share about this collective genius. I think it's very comforting where almost everything that you need answers to are out there. Like I think real estate investing has been around for so long. And yes, there's always new technology, new platform, new strategy, all this stuff. But it's almost like everything, someone out there is already doing exactly what you want to do, right? So let's say you want to consider investing in Chicago, reach out to Elizabeth. She's already in that market. She can show you what is this, where you should invest, all that stuff. So the answer to your question, to any of your concern is already out there. So you only need to ask the right people. You just need to ask your community. And then that will really help propel you forward. So I love that. A world where people are more of a community, that we can all support it and be kind to each other. Elizabeth, I always want to ask, what is some cause or charity that the speaker would like our audience to support to thank you for being here and share so much wisdom with us? Tell us what the cause or charity that we can support.
So I don't have like a specific one, but anything that's like pet related,
Animal related,
you know, just anything. Awesome. I love dogs. I have 4 dogs, and if I could get more, I would.
Same. Yeah, I only have 1 pup, but we've been like, should we get more? I love that you have a blended family with what, 4, 5 kids?
5 kids.
5 kids and 4 dogs.
4 dogs, yeah. And it was funny because I recorded a video that I posted online, and Three of the kids, each of them were carrying a dog. My son was the one that was actually just sitting there with no dog. And then I said something like, we're missing one. And then a few months later, we got the fourth one. So,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
super fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell the audience, how can people get in touch with you, find out more about your firm, just follow your journey overall?
You can follow me on Instagram. My IG handle is Liz Hernandez CPA. I post a lot of real estate related content.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you so much for sharing your journey, your advice. It was a blast chatting with you. Can't wait to follow your journey.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.